I'm just going to start letting them into the lobby, or letting them in. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm going to get this started as we're already at 6:02. So thank you so much for joining tonight's workshop hosted by CDL. My name is Jordan. I am the communications manager here at CDL. We are very excited to welcome our very own Olivia Fong, who is our social emotional program manager, who'll be leading tonight's session titled Working Through Dysregulation, Supporting Your Child with Big Emotions in the Moment. Just a quick note before we get started. So this session is completely recorded. So if you're coming in late or you have to hop off early, the session is recorded and it will get sent out tomorrow by 5 p.m. So just through a shareable link on YouTube. So if you have to leave early or anything, do not worry, it is recorded. But with that, I will pass it off to Olivia.
Thank you, Jordan. I'm really happy. I love doing these workshops with everybody and providing, more information and potential resources and support to families who are interested in learning more about ways to support their child. So today we are going to be focusing on working through dysregulation. And a lot of the time when we think of dysregulation, we go, well, what does that even mean? We can think of dysregulation as meltdowns, and we'll go into it in a little bit more detail. I do just want to go over the agenda for today so that everybody knows kind of what we'll be talking about. And for those who are watching the recording at a later time, you'll be able to see what we cover through the next hour. So we're going to talk about what is emotional regulation versus emotional dysregulation, and then 4 potential ways to support your child through that dysregulation or the meltdowns or really big emotions that they might be feeling, with the 4 kind of simplified versions being calm and supportive, simple and direct, how to support yourself, as well as co-regulation. And we'll go into more detail as we go. It's not just 4 quick little bullet points. Yeah. So when we look at what emotional regulation is, it can be simplified to the ability to control your own emotions. So it's noticing and naming those emotions and pausing and choosing what your response or what your reaction is, rather than feeling the emotion instantly and reacting based off of what you're feeling in an instant. It's about choosing a healthy and productive response. It's not about minimizing emotions, shoving them down and ignoring them. It's about sitting in them and knowing how to work through them without harming yourself, without harming other people. Whether that be physically, emotionally, And emotional regulation is using different strategies to help get your brain and your body settle back into a state of calm, right? When we explore ways to do that, we'll go into more detail. So emotional dysregulation is the opposite of that. It's the inability to control and manage your emotions. It's typically seen as those extreme reactions or those extreme responses. And typically here, the brain is in fight or flight mode. The brain takes on that fight or flight, and we want to protect ourselves. There's this perceived threat or distress or potential crisis that our brain goes into overdrive to try to protect ourselves. This is really where we see the emotional side of the brain take over. This is not just for those neurodiverse individuals. This is something that we can see through neurotypical individuals, neurodiverse individuals. Fight or flight is a response that everybody has encountered at least once in their life, I'm sure. So typically this emotional dysregulation can look like having a really big meltdown and having moments of lashing out. It can also look like internalizing and shutting down rather than having these big loud outbursts. It can just look like they are, ignoring and avoiding because there are so many emotions, they don't even know how to react. It can look like mood swings. And then it can also be seen through getting easily frustrated through minor inconveniences, right? So some of those minor inconveniences could be not being able to tie your shoes in the first try. It could be being told, no, we're not going to do that right now. It might feel minor to you, but in that emotional brain, it feels a lot bigger to the emotional brain than it does to a logical brain or the logical side of our brain. Yeah. So we're going to explore different ways to support your child through these big feelings. And the way that we can break it down is through those four that I mentioned at the beginning. So calm and supportive, direct or simple and direct, through supporting yourself, and then as well as co-regulation, which is one of my personal favorites, and we'll get into why a little bit later. So when you are looking to be calm and supportive, the reason it's so important for this is because in that emotional state or when your brain is in that emotional mind frame and maybe not thinking clearly or thinking logically, it's important to be the calm person, because calmness and relaxed mindset can kind of spread, right? When your child sees that you are calm and collected and are able to be the voice of reason, it helps them come back down themselves as well. So being patient, listening to them, and making sure that you're conveying empathy, right? Is everything okay? Is there anything I can help you with? You know your child best, so those aren't the only things that you can say, but you want to be patient. When our emotional brain takes over, sometimes it takes us longer to process information, but the information that we're being told in that distress, or the information we're trying to share, right? So you could say, is everything okay? But if they don't respond right away, does it make sense to say, is it okay? Is it okay? Are you okay? Constantly, when they could just be trying to articulate a simple, no, I'm not. And that emotional side of the brain takes over, our judgment can get clouded. So we also want to be non-judgmental. We want to focus on helping your child meet the needs and address the cause of the behavior that they are displaying, right? So we think of all we think of all behavior as a form of communication. Now, it might not be the best type of communication, but in a state of crisis or in a state of panic or a meltdown, an attempt to communicate is better than nothing at all. So things that you can consider is being those unmet needs. When was the last time they ate? We are in quite a heat wave here in Ontario, right? So is it really hot outside and they've been outside all day at camp? We know that extreme heat and lack of staying hydrated can create a sense of exhaustion. Is that leading to this potential meltdown or dysregulation? And then consider the other context, right? Were they having a rough day at camp, or did a plan get disrupted, right? Were you thinking you were going to go to the beach on Saturday and, day of, it is pouring outside, so we can't go to the beach when the weather isn't ideal? That can throw off the predictability of what their day was and can lead them into that state of dysregulation. So again, we want to be calm and consistent. Sometimes in the moment, especially when we're out in public, it can be really hard to be calm. I myself, as a new parent, have experienced it where the meltdown is happening in public, and we don't want to experience that shame or potential judgment from the side eyes of other parents or other adults who are in the space. But being calm, like I mentioned, is how we can lead our children to being calm as well. So to continue with that, we want to listen with empathy. When we're listening to what our children are trying to say to us, we do not want to listen to hear what they're saying and then come up with a response. We want to focus on listening to understand why they are feeling this way or why they are behaving this way. So understand their perspective. Don't jump straight into problem-solving mode. Problem-solving mode can come later when we are settling back into that state of calm. Our body feels a little bit more relaxed and our brain also feels more relaxed. At this time, we want to do our best to give undivided attention. And this is because we want our kids to know when we say, you can trust me, I'm here for you. It's one thing to say it, but this is the best way to show that we mean it, is by giving them undivided attention. And lastly, we want to allow time for silence. Silence is okay. It gives you the chance to process everything that you have just heard, and it gives them a chance to process their thoughts as well, and anything that you might be telling them too. That patience, that silence is actually going to be that chance for them to, literally breathe, and also just give them a chance to say or think, have I said everything I needed to say? Using a caring and supportive tone, right? These are some of the paraverbal and nonverbal things that we can do to support our little ones through that crisis or through that dysregulation. So being supportive or using, a calm, supportive, low volume tone, right? Do we really want to be shouting in a state of crisis? Do you think that's going to bring the situation down, or do we think that's going to escalate it further? You're also going to want to make sure you're speaking at a speed that allows, it says your camper. We want to be able to speak at a speed that allows for your child to process what you're saying. If we are talking at 100 words per minute and we start jumbling words, they're not going to process. And it could also, further instill that state of fight or flight, or that panic and anxiety, because it can come across like we're trying to rush them through feeling calmer. Be aware of your posture and your use of touch and your facial expression. Do you look angry at them because they're feeling dysregulated? Or do you look like you are caring? Do you look like you're open, right? So is it, I apologize, my camera doesn't quite show, but are your arms crossed? Are you frowning while you're talking to them? Or are you getting down to their level so that it doesn't feel like there's a power imbalance, and that you are looking them right in their eyes or in their general direction to say, like, I am here for you and I want to help you through this. And lastly, modify the environment to prevent overstimulation. When and where possible, remove them from the environment that has created the meltdown. It might not be the environment that created the meltdown, but it's potentially going to further trigger them, because in that fight or flight mode, our children might not feel safe there, because that is where the trigger happened. So where it's possible, maybe you want to say, let's go to a different room. If you know that they've got a sensory room, if you know that they feel calm when they're in their bedroom, maybe try to calm them down in a place that they already consider safe. And if you're out in public, it might not always be possible, but maybe go somewhere where there is less attention. If there is a quiet aisle in the grocery store, if there is a bathroom, if you've got the chance, maybe you talk just outside the store or in the car, right, where there are less eyes on you, because it takes the pressure off of you, but it also takes the pressure off of your children. Because they aren't worried about what other people are thinking. They're more so focused on trying to get calm with you. So I have a couple of phrases that you can say, and obviously you might want to change out the emotions based off of what they've shared with you, but you want to validate and be empathetic. So it's all right to feel angry. You can feel angry, even if you're angry at me, but it's not okay to hit me when you're angry. This is one that I really, really enjoy using. It validates that they're feeling angry. And like we said, we want to be able to label those emotions. That is one of the core emotional regulation skills. And it's validating, saying, don't be angry. Don't be angry is quite the opposite of that, because what's wrong with being angry, right? It's how we, in a healthy way, express that anger or frustration. And we know that physical aggression is not a productive behavior to do that. So another one here is, let's get through this together. I'm here for you, and you just let me know how I can help you. I'm here to help however you need me. We want them to know, especially as their parents or as their caregivers, that we are somebody safe that they can trust to work through these things, so that when they are feeling alone, they can come to you even after the fact and say, I did it by myself, but I might still need help one day. Creating that trust, making sure that there's strengthen that relationship. The next way to support through that dysregulation is to be simple and direct. When that emotional side of the brain takes over and the logic has taken its quick little hiatus or little vacation, giving too much information all at once is not always going to be the best thing. It's going to jumble up in their brains. They're only going to be able to process and absorb certain information that you're sharing with them. So short and simple phrases are really, really helpful. You also want to provide simple and reasonable choices that help them consider positive behaviors and positive outcomes. So if your child is really, really dysregulated and we have an emotional outburst, there's lots of crying, there's lots of screaming, going up to them saying, shh, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. You know what? Once we finish all the groceries, we're going to leave the store and then we're going to do that activity at the park that you really wanted to do. But right now, I really, really, really need you to stop crying. Please, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. We'll be lucky if they heard maybe 2 of those things. Hopefully they heard, we're going to go to the park and do that activity you wanted. But there's so much information when their brain is probably moving at 100 miles per hour. If we shift it to, okay, once we're finished groceries, we're going to the park. Or once we're finished here, we're moving on to what you want to do. Gives them simple things, right? You know, we have to finish one thing before moving on to another. Another example, if your kids are screaming at you and saying, why are you making me do this? You could simply say, when you lower your voice, I can explain why we're doing this. Letting them know if you want to have a discussion about this, this is what you need to do first. Moving on with the simple and direct approach, you want to limit the settings. So you want to offer choice that create boundaries for productive behavior. So you want to continue to use short and simple phrases. And then there are 3 different ways that you can use this strategy. We can interrupt and redirect. We can go the desired behavior, desired outcome way, or we have fail-safe choice. So when it comes to interrupt and redirect, you want to interrupt your child's emotional flow to get their attention, followed by redirecting them to the alternative productive behavior. So it could be something as simple as, hey kiddo, you sound upset. Why don't you take a breath and tell me what happened? You're still validating that they sound really upset. You're providing them an opening for the start of calming down, right? Taking a deep breath and then tell me what happened. You can also, I understand what you're saying and I'm here to help. Come sit with me and we'll see what we can do. Okay, we're validating, we're providing them with a positive behavior, and we're also providing them with a potential solution. Okay. We can look at desired behavior, desired outcome. So this allows for your child to identify the behavior that's going to help them reach their desired outcome or your desired outcome even. So to do this, you want to provide the suggested behaviors and outcomes. One of the best ways to do this is first and then statements or when and then statements. This is a really helpful structure to use because it shows exactly what you need to do first before moving on to the next thing. Like I had said earlier, once we finish at the store, then we can go to the park, for example. When you lower your voice, I will be able to listen better. So you've got your desired behavior, which is lowering your voice, and then the outcome is I'll be able to listen better. Clear and simple. Another great one is if you wait here, I can go get you that item you want. Sometimes allowing for space is all that they need, is a few minutes or a few seconds to themselves to process, regulate, like by themselves, right? So if you wait here, that's our desired behavior. The outcome is I'll go and get the item that you're asking for. And then the last one, when it comes to that limit setting, is your fail-safe choice. I apologize. So this provides your child with 2 acceptable options for fulfilling your request. Either way, it's a win-win for you. It's a win-win for your child. So these are both out of positive outcomes. However, it gives your child a sense of choice, and it gives them a sense of control of the situation. And that is something that we see with young people, is when they feel like they have control, it is a lot easier to bring them back into that level-headed or regulated state. Some examples. Do you want to talk about this now or later at home, right? Or do you want to talk about this now or at the car, right? Or in private? You're giving 2 potential outcomes. If they feel ready to talk to you right there in that moment, go for it. If they need to wait until they have got their breathing back in check, if they want to process, why they felt that way, because maybe they can't tell you right there in the moment and they need a minute. But either way, you're providing a win-win here, because you're going to talk about it and you're going to work through things together. You can also say, kiddo, which do you want to complete first? Do you want to brush your teeth or wash your face? Both need to get done before bed, but which one would they prefer to do first? Moving on to other ways to support through dysregulation. This is a really, really big one. So support yourself. Support yourself. We hear it all the time as an example. When you go on an airplane or on social media, we hear you can't pour from an empty cup, or on that airplane, right? Make sure you put your mask on before you help others. And helping our kids through a meltdown or dysregulation is no different. If I'm telling you, hey, the best way to help them is to be calm, how do you keep calm in a state of panic when your kid is in crisis? If you're in public, like I mentioned, that additional layer of potential external judgment. So knowing those triggers, knowing what overwhelms you is really, really important. Is it that the screaming overwhelms you and it makes it hard for you to stay regulated because that loudness just puts you into your own state of distress? Knowing those things and how you can prevent them or work around them even is very, very important. Another way is model the positive behaviors that you want to see from your children, right? So if you want them to be taking deep breaths in order to help start calm down, when you're feeling dysregulated, take those deep breaths and vocalize what you're doing, right? Say, I am so angry right now. I just need to take a few deep breaths so that I can calm down, right? Because it's giving them an idea. A lot of us can forget that we're a role model to our kids, and the best way to teach them positive coping strategies and positive behaviors is to model them ourselves. So with that, it can also look like labeling those emotions for yourself, saying out loud, oh man, I'm so stressed because of all the things I have to do, but I know I'm going to get through them because I've got my to-do list. And then you can also just use strategies that you find helpful. Does it look like taking a break? Is it deep breathing? Is it stretching? And then lastly is being mindful of your reaction to their dysregulation. Are you getting angry when they hit this state of dysregulation? Are you getting embarrassed at their state of dysregulation? Does it send you into your own type of dysregulation? Those are things that our kids can really pick up on, and it can be detrimental to the support that you give them because they might not want to come to you in a state of panic if you're also panicked. They want to be around somebody who's going to be able to keep cool and calm to help bring them down. Yeah. So another kind of example is, I'm so angry I could slam this door. You're not going to slam the door, but you can empathize and say, yeah, sometimes I want to slam this door, or sometimes I want to kick that toy, right? I'm so angry, and it's okay to be angry. I know that that's not the positive behavior. And you can redirect to things that you deem appropriate, right? So I'm so angry, I'm going to stomp my feet to get the angry energy out. Again, just modeling what you want to see from your kids in that way. Also giving yourself grace, right? Oops, I messed that up. I'm going to try again. Owning up to mistakes that you make, owning up to when you have a moment of panic, going back to that like reaction that you have when your kids are dysregulated. Right? It could be, I got really angry because I was also really, really stressed out. I'm so sorry. Let's reset. Acknowledging that you are not perfect, or that we as adults can make mistakes, takes that pressure off and allows for them to recognize, like, give myself grace. I'm a kid, I'm learning. Oh. This one is personally my favorite. Co-regulation. This one can be really, really good because, like I've said, sometimes our own emotions get the best of us, and we want to be that calm, cool, collected adult, but it can't always happen. So co-regulating is still modeling those positive strategies and positive behaviors and outcomes, but it's also a really great bonding experience. And there are lots of different ways that we can do this. So it can be those breathing exercises. It's naming those emotions and sensations you're feeling, being aware of your body, right? How does your body feel when you get really angry? How does your body feel after you're angry, right? Once you're no longer angry, what do you feel? A really great example, when you're feeling stressed out, do your shoulders tense up? Right? You can acknowledge that and say, oh, I must be stressed because like I'm clenching my jaw, or, oh my goodness, I'm feeling really nervous because I can feel the butterflies in my stomach, right? Labeling the sensation of butterflies in the stomach and pairing it with the emotion also helps develop the emotional regulation skills for your kids. And this one here is a blast. Co-regulate through play, right? Make it silly. Make it judgment free. So you can practice turn taking games, right? Co-regulate and say, I am going to see how, it can be a game like, I'm going to see how far I can throw this ball. And you can pretend that the ball is the anger energy or the anxiety that you're trying to throw away. For some, it's a sensory input, so roughhousing. So it could look like play wrestling at home, pillow fights, getting that energy out is how we can bring that body back to a state of calm. And then silliness. So that can look like anything. And through play and those games, a really good example I've seen and I've actually tried with my little one is the madness monster. So sometimes when I'm feeling really dysregulated, he's feeling really dysregulated, the best way is for the madness monster to come out. So I stomp around the house pretending I'm a dinosaur, or I'm pretending I'm a monster, and I'm getting my anger out. But because we're both laughing, he doesn't realize that I'm feeling angry. And it's just that energy out. Like I said, it's a wonderful bonding experience. Another really helpful example is breathing exercises. Sometimes we don't realize how the breathing can be helpful because we can't visualize the breath, right? Bubbles. There are bubbles everywhere in my house because when you have a little one who's maybe not really understanding how to do the deep breaths and things, having the bubbles, they can see it. And I don't know anybody who gets angry or feels upset when bubbles are around, right? It turns into a popping game. When they touch your nose, things like that. Again, that silliness can really bring that calm in. And it kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier about the interrupt and redirect. We're redirecting the energy into a potential positive outcome because they're breathing, right? You need to take a big breath to blow as many bubbles as possible. while, you know, we recognize breathing exercises can regulate the body, it can regulate the brain, and also help us with processing. Yeah. So those are some examples of ways to use play. Like I said, pillow fights are really fun. Yeah. And then lastly, before we wrap up, how can you prevent that dysregulation? Not every time, but these are some things that we can do to minimize potential outbursts or potential meltdowns. So creating routine and creating consistency. So those boundaries that you create, the rules and expectations that you have should be the same no matter what. So if you know that going grocery shopping with your kids is a very, very dysregulating experience for them, the boundary is, or the expectation, I shouldn't even say boundary, but the expectation is once we go grocery shopping, we go to the candy aisle and you get to pick one candy as a family, right? And that stays the same. Even when they misbehave, it could be we get the candy, but if you misbehave or don't follow the rules, you don't get the candy until tomorrow instead of today. But making sure they are aware of the expectations and those consequences so that they can make an active or conscious choice to choose that consequence or outcome. Next is visual supports. So if you know that your young one really struggles with transition time, providing timers, schedules, and choice boards to help with those transitions can be very helpful because they can visually see the transition taking place. And lastly, sensory bins. So having a sensory bin to redirect that energy. So whether it be fidget toys, sensory blankets, whatever calming activities they have. And like I mentioned, bubbles. I don't know anybody who can get angry having bubbles around. It used to be one of my road rage tricks when I would be in the car, sitting in the 401 in lovely traffic. Blowing bubbles instead of yelling like anybody else in their cars could hear me was always something that would be like, oh my goodness, this is so silly. It's not worth getting angry over. I'm having fun in the car. Yeah. So that concludes everything today. If anybody had any questions about any of the strategies or is hoping for a more in-depth information, you can reach us at info@diverselearners.ca. You can also just respond to the email that sent out the link to you so that we can answer any of those questions. And you can also reach out to me directly at socialskills@diverselearners.ca. We can explore ways to help your child if there are specifics. We can look at certain programming that CDL offers that might be able to help with the skill of emotional regulation. Yeah, and then we also have our resource calls and our registration opening for programming in August. So yeah, thank you everybody. I'm really happy that you all showed up or are listening and watching to the recording. I'm always happy to share realistic strategies to help.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and exactly what Olivia said. If you want to have a bit more of an in-depth conversation, I would recommend if you are in Halton, we do offer free resource calls. So you can go right on our website. There's a button at the bottom. It says parent support appointments. So this gives you a block of time with one of our staff members to kind of go over any local resources, our resources that we offer. And again, like Olivia said, our program registration will be opening on August 18th. If you need any assistance filling out a registration form, you can always email us at info@diverselearners.ca or give us a call. Our phone number is at the footer of our website as well. We're always happy to help you fill out those registration forms, as I know they can become very overwhelming. There's a lot of questions on them. But yeah, so the session recording will be sent out tomorrow at 5 p.m. But I really appreciate everyone taking the time out of their day to come and spend a lovely Wednesday evening with us here at CDL. And yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to just hit the reply button on the email that you received from myself, and I will get you some more information or pass you on to who you need to speak to. So yeah, I just see one more person typing in the chat, and then I'm just gonna wait, and then we can hop off and enjoy the rest of our evenings with our families and our friends.
And hopefully staying nice and cool in this heat wave we're
Yeah.
in.
Okay. Okay, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, we're really glad that we can help share the strategies and information with you all. That's what our workshops are here for. Our monthly free workshops are definitely to help spread the word and get in different resources to help better support our families and our communities. So, but if that is everything, then I am going to end the meeting, and then you will all hear from me tomorrow. So,
Have a great
okay,
evening,
bye.
everybody.
Bye, everyone.